What's up, everybody? Super excited to be back with you guys. I have another gem here today that I want to bring to the table. This person I've been working with for what, two years now. I was probably one of the first agents that believed in me in terms of like in a group setting. I remember I was on a big meeting and there was a ton of people on there, and people were kind of a little nervous. It was my first introduction to the agency, and I remember she hit me up after the call, shot me a text message. I was like, "Yeah, it's my number." She's like, "Hey, like I'm not starting today, but like I'll be back." Type of thing. And it was like a month later, I think, or so. She randomly texted me, was like, "Yo, I'm ready to go." I didn't know her. Like, I don't even think I saw her. Or she might have had a camera off or whatever on Zoom. Hit me up and like just was paying every month and just watched her numbers literally go up. And we've been friends outside of the industry since then. Super cool. Somebody like I respect as well. So I wanted to bring her back. She's been on, I think it was about a year and a half ago, but she's now we're doing a few different things. So I wanted to have her speak to you guys about kind of her experience. So none other than my dog G. Appreciate you for hopping on, G.
What's going on?
Sir, yes, sir. All right, cool. So quick refresher for everybody. Can you tell everybody a little bit about like your time getting into the insurance? What were you doing beforehand?
I got into the insurance space late of 2022, so about just about 3 years now. I prior to this, I did phone sales, but I was in the mortgage industry, so I did that for about 3 years. It was a very similar kind of model, even though I was in the corporate world. But I was doing inbound, outbound calls. People were filling out like forms online about wanting to get pre-qualified for purchasing their home. We'd go through income, assets, credit, all that type of things, go through their full financial profile to see what they could essentially qualify for. We would pitch options of obviously rates versus insurance rates. They would pick a product, we do an online application. So it was a very similar, like over the phone, virtual type sales role. So that kind of helped me in transitioning into more of the entrepreneurial realm that I'm in now and doing insurance sales.
Yes, love it. Appreciate that. And then tell us a little bit about like your first. Actually, I want to hear about what was your experience. I don't think I ever think I asked you this. What was your experience like before we started working together? I know it was a few months, or maybe I don't even know how long it was. So yeah, you speak to that.
Yeah. So when I first started in the insurance business, I trained and learned everything on age leads. I was working like 6 to 9 month old leads. It was definitely a grind. Obviously, now as time has gone on, there's more technology, there's more systems. So it's kind of like a work smarter, not harder. Like you're definitely still having to work hard in this industry, but you just have more systems to make that a lot more fluid. So I had started with age leads doing final expense. I pretty much got, I think it was to like my third or fourth month into the business, I hit like my first 10K a month. And then at that point, I was, making enough income to where I was like, okay, I need to get on new, fresh leads that are actual marketing. And that's when I kind of started working with you.
Got you. And before we get into that transition, because I want to dive deep, I want to talk about what was that jump? Was it scary when you went from, kind of doing those older leads? Obviously, they're cheaper.
Yeah.
And then you went into, working with us. What was kind of like the mindset that you went into it with? And like, what did you learn within those first few months in terms of the difference?
So, when working age leads, the initial conversation is definitely a little bit different because a lot of what you're doing is you're reaching out to people that have put in a request at some point in time when they're online. So, whether they're on, whatever type of website they see, the advertisement or however that was being done at that time. To be honest, I don't know exactly how it was structured when I was getting those age leads, but you're also having to approach these clients with, hey, you did fill this out at some point, reason being of A, B, C, and D. Like I have your name, I have your date of birth, I have your address, you listed your beneficiary as your wife, Susan, whatever it is. So it was definitely more of a grind as far as going through a learning curve, but it also was a blessing. And I think set me up to be so successful with the brand new fresh leads because I got a ton of practice in rebuttals, in objections, having to be very like articulate and making sure that these clients are getting to a point to where they're remembering when they did submit this. And then at that point, it's just kind of finding them at the right time to be able to have that conversation. So if I could go back, I honestly wouldn't change anything just because I think that I learned so much in the beginning, even though it was really difficult. But I learned so much in the beginning as far as the baseline of what you need to know when being in phone sales. Like you need to know how to overcome objections. You need to know how to overcome rebuttals. You need to know how to deal with mentally the struggle of people hanging up on you or not being being interested or cussing you out, whatever the case may be. So I'm glad that I learned in that kind of more difficult environment. So then when I transitioned to the newer leads, I still had that baseline of knowledge and practice on how to deal with those things when they came up, even with fresh leads, because you're still going to get rebuttals and things like that. It's just kind of going to be a little bit different. It's more so you're battling with finding these people at the right time versus the right time and trying to get them to remember of something that they filled out months ago.
Right. For a new agent that just started working with us, can you talk about your first 3 months? I know we're going back; it was like 2 years
No,
ago,
it's
but
okay.
remember what was your first 3 months in terms of like production from month one, month two, month three when you first started working with us?
So it gradually went up. I think and at that time, like I was working final expense. So I think my first couple months, I would say within my first 3 months, I'm pretty sure that that's when I hit my first 30K month with you guys when I started working those new leads with final expense. Obviously, the premiums are typically a little bit lower versus mortgage protection of what I do now. So getting to that point, you're having to put in more time and more volume. However, it's also you're sharpening that skill set as that time goes on as well. So I think the first month that I started with you, I was probably around like 8 to 10K. Then it got closer to like 15. And I remember the third month, it just like skyrocketed to 30. That was when I hit my first 30K month. And I did that pretty consistently for quite a few months after that. Of course, in sales, it ebbs and flows. And you're not always going to have a 30K month, but it happened pretty early on. And I also am someone who's really disciplined and consistent. I work well with being in an environment where I am my own boss. So I looked at it as like, if I'm going to be investing in myself, investing in my business, and investing in better quality leads, and that's only going to make me work harder at that point.
So, what do you feel like the biggest difference from month two, month three was, and then obviously going forward? Like, what did you learn about working fresh leads? You said it before, but just for the people that don't know.
As far as, I mean, working with fresh leads, you're definitely going to have higher intent. I think also the source of how the leads were generated once I started working with you versus the age. Like I said, with the age, it's buying from a lead vendor that I never spoke to the owner, didn't really have any type of customer service support. It was basically you bought the leads and you got what you got. If you got 20 disconnected numbers out of a 50 pack, like that's just what you got. Versus working with you, it's definitely more hands-on, more personalized. You're able to customize your ad with you, obviously. And we know that it's advertised and marketed on social media platforms and where people are going to be seeing like a more trusted source of finding that type of information on insurance. So I think that that's huge, but also I think just having the open dialogue and communication with you and your team was key as well. Just having the ability to structure things, kind of customize them, and really just kind of having the support of getting into like true marketing and how that works. And I think just really having kind of guidance and support through that.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to fast forward a little bit. So during that process, what was, and I don't even know this either. What made you switch from final expense to mortgage protection? Because everybody knows this. I'm not a huge final expense fan at all. But for the people that still do final expense, which isn't really a whole lot of people, but there are still some.
Yeah.
What was the reason that you transitioned?
The reason that, I mean, there's a couple different reasons. So, number one, when you're looking at a demographic of people that are looking to protect their some people's largest asset is their home. So, not only did I have the experience in that realm of coming from the mortgage industry, which of course helped me with some things, but you don't need to have experience in mortgage to run mortgage protection and be successful at that. With mortgage protection, you're going to have people that are having a little bit more skin in the game, I think, when it comes to the insurance, because it's something that they're living in, day out. Like I said, it's a lot of people's largest, biggest asset that they're protecting. If they become sick and they pass, or if they become sick and they can't work, or if they pass away and then their family is left with that debt. When somebody passes away, it's not like, oh, the mortgage lender says, oh, don't worry about the payments or, anything like that. Like that is still due every single month. So people are much more inclined, I think, to put money towards insurance for something that is an asset that they're protecting. Number two, it's typically higher premiums because you're still doing term and whole life. But if you're covering something that is $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, you're going to have higher premiums. It's automatically a lower chargeback rate as well, which is going to give you more retention. And then the other thing is that when you're comparing it to people that are putting money into insurance for a protection of whenever the time comes and they pass, and then it's paying for something that they're no longer even here to kind of see like come to an endpoint and actually pay out, that's always going to be the first thing that they cancel. When times get tough, they lose their job, whatever it is, people in that type of mindset, there's on the other front, they're still going to be wanting to protect their home, which people still do, cancel their insurance for mortgage protection. But I would say that the chargeback rate is probably 5 to 10% less, depending on your skill set and how you are with your clients and building, rapport and all that kind of stuff. But so that was kind of the main reason that I had done it. I was looking to scale my business and also have like more tools in my tool belt. I wanted to be able to know how to run different types of leads. And I also think that the client experience is like for the agent is just a little bit smoother, as far as a lot of times, for example, something simple, but if you have a mortgage, you have to have a bank account. You're not dealing with people that are really using like Chime, or they only have a direct express card. Usually you're also dealing with people that are still working. So it's a little bit younger of a clientele versus final expense. You're typically looking at people that are between the ages of 60 and 80, if you will, in most cases. So it was just kind of an overall better experience and just something that I wanted to tap into. Sometimes, and this is dependent on a lot of different factors, but when agents first come into the industry, in most cases, final expense is going to be your cheapest route of investment to go. So that's why a lot of people start there. But you also, a lot of times, are going to have a lot better outcome with mortgage protection, as far as like lower chargeback rate, higher premiums, all of that. So I was just at a point where I was like, I'm over final expense. I want something new. I want something different. And like I said, I was looking to scale my business, and I felt like that was the quickest way to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right on track with the main reasons that people transition or should be looking to transition. In particular, too, I think it speaks to like your skill set, because one of the things that now is when you do talk to some clients who are potentially a little bit older, you can put them into equity protection. So you're
Yeah.
more versed on like the why once you could do mortgage protection, because final expense is so straightforward. It's like, yeah,
Yes.
burial, cremation. When you do mortgage, you're not really closing people on necessarily their mortgage. Like you said, you're closing it on their assets. Their why is a lot stronger reason
Yeah.
behind, why you're looking to do that. So that's great. I want to talk about one more thing, and then we can hop into kind of like the sales, not necessarily the script, but more psychology, because I've seen how you train your agents and I think it's really unique. But um, let's talk about now. Fast forward, that was 2 years ago. Within the past 8 months, at the beginning of the year, you guys, won't name any names, have moved into, kind of our Apex more personalized package.
Mhm.
First, let's talk about recruiting leads. I want to know,
Yes.
you calling them. You were on the ads. Let's talk about your experience in working recruiting leads, if you could.
Yeah. I was actually really like thankful that you kind of challenged me in recording my own ads for that, because number one, it obviously makes it way more personalized. You have the leverage and credibility of when you're calling these people of, hey, you watched my ad, you watched me in the video talk about A, B, and C, and you gave great instructions and just kind of guidance on that. You're like, hey, here's your script. This is what I need you to say. Record yourself doing it. The team's going to take care of everything else. So I was always someone that was kind of weary about being on camera and kind of doing that whole thing. So that really got me out of my comfort zone. Now, recording anything, whether it comes for recruiting ads or client ads, I'm like, oh, no problem. I could totally do that. Like, you totally got me out of that like scarcity mindset of that. So I love that. But as far as the recruiting ads were great. So it's very similar to running the ads for your clients. We were figuring out a specific target demographic. The lead flow was crazy on that. The cost per lead was coming in great. So that's a plus. And as far as like working those leads, I would do it very similar to how I would work my client leads. Like, I'm calling them, reaching out to them about something that they filled out. I'm trying to figure out what their problem is so that I can find a solution for them and why it makes sense for them to potentially hop on a call with me, join my agency, whatever it is. We would go through a call. I would read a script that I have, and I would kind of treat it like any other client. So that was kind of my experience with it. It's been working great.
Got you. Did you come up with that script on your, like, you just created the script on your own?
So there was actually a couple different scripts that people had shared with me, and I kind of created my own. I just kind of wanted a guidance of, because at that point, I was doing probably like at least 3 to 6 or 7 recruiting calls a day. And they were quick. They were like 20, 30 minutes maybe. But I just kind of wanted to have a structure of like all of the points that I need to hit, all the different points of value that is going to resonate with an agent and then coming to work with us, I wanted to make sure that I hit in conjunction with figuring out what is their problem and how can I provide a solution to that. What is it that they're looking for, and how is my agency going to be able to fill that cup for you, essentially? And of course, just like clients, you're not going to close every single person. It's not going to make sense for everybody. But I mean, that was kind of the way that I did it. I was, advised like treat it like any other client. So that's why I kind of created like a rough script, if you will, just to make sure that I was kind of hitting all the important points that needed to be hit in that conversation.
Yeah. And you spoke about it earlier. Can you talk about your experience with the branding piece? Because that to me is huge. And I think more people are getting hip to it. But it's obviously, it's funny because in the life insurance space, the only business where you buy leads or you generate leads, but you're not on them. For most of the people, they work with lead vendors, not marketing companies like
Yeah.
ourselves. Can you talk about your experience with your actual leads? Because ironically, we did the recruiting ads first, and then we started doing the branded leads because that was priority, etc. Can you talk about your experience now that you're on your own ads and it's branded as your agency, etc.? Like, can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I think honestly, the main thing is that you automatically come in with having more credibility to where you can reference like, hey, I saw, like, you watched a video of me talk about this. This is my business, my organization. Like, it's legitimate, it's credible who you're talking to. Not only am I the one at the beginning of your experience, but I'm also the person that comes along with your policy. So I think that people like that, as far as that they know exactly who I am, exactly who they're talking to, and I'm going to be around to help them and their family when it comes to the worst time of their life and they need to be able to protect their home and their largest asset. So I think the branding in itself just gives so much more credibility to people because I mean, obviously there's like a lot of scam and crazy things that are out there on the internet. So I think being able to say, hey, you filled out my ad of X agency or whatever that looks like, and being able to name that, it kind of think just ties it all together and creates more trust between you and your client from the minute that they see that video. And then they're going to say, hey, they saw Giovanna on the video. Now Giovanna's calling them. I'm the one that's going through all the information with them. And I'm also the one that's going to help their family when this insurance, is going to be utilized. So right. I think it just kind of holds a lot of weight from start to finish for the client.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point too. And I think it's very undervalued how important it is to have things be branded as yourself. You made a good point, right? I'm the agent that you're going to see on the ad, but I'm also the agent that's going to go through the application with you. I'm speaking to you, but the most important thing is like I'm your agent. So you felt personalized from the very beginning,
right,
versus just some general, form that was like, hey, blah, 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 mortgage protection. And then you fill it out and there's nothing to identify with. You could be like, oh, this is my person, etc. Right. Now I want to pivot over to the sales side. You are probably, I'm not going to lie, the best sales coach I have ever met.
Thank you.
Nah, for real, like everybody watching, you all don't know, but I have watched her literally train people up to be killers. But before we hop into that, can you tell people about your recent production within the last like few weeks or the total month, working with us, at least so they know who we're talking to, what we're working with? I know she said she was doing 8, 15, 20K years ago, but can you talk about kind of where you're at now and then into the sales stuff?
Yeah. So just to give some background. So I have a small team that I'm building and training and whatnot, but I also focus a lot on personal production. I think it's important to lead from the front. And I think the agents learn the best and most efficiently from watching me do exactly what I need them to do. Also providing a system that's duplicatable. So if I have new agents coming on, they're using the script that I'm using, they're advised to run the leads that I'm running. I want everything to be the same to set them up for success. But as far as like my production recently, so last week I did 13K. The week before that, I did 9K, all on your leads, no other. And it was simply me just dialing the phone. My CRM works great as well, obviously helping me book appointments and whatnot. So I would say between the last 2 weeks, I probably had a good amount of even split of like clients that I closed in appointments and just generally dialing. So the numbers that I was putting up in the beginning of my career that I was doing in a month, I'm now able to achieve in a week. And some weeks I'm working a full 40 hours. Some weeks I'm working a little bit less. It just kind of depends on what else I have going on, with my other agents, if they're needing more training, more hands-on, whatever it is. But I'm definitely not working like 50, 60 hours a week to be able to achieve that. So I think it comes down to having a credible lead source, having the support from from your team. Also being someone that is just willing to put in the work and honestly just following a system that we know that works. And not every week is going to be a $13,000 week. Like sometimes I'm only making 5,000 in a week, and that's okay. But that's also just the ebbs and flows of sales. So I think if you're able to come into it and know that it's not going to necessarily be exactly the same every single week, but I think as long as you are being able to find that you're having some sort of win on a daily or weekly basis, that's kind of what keeps you going every single day, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I appreciate you for sharing that. For everybody that didn't pick up what she said, went from a month to half a month. So we're,
Yeah.
she's not gonna brag about herself, but it's okay. Nonetheless, though, so kind of, I want to talk about what are you telling agents to get them up and running fast? I mean, I've literally watched, like I said, you're getting people up and running within the first month, doing sometimes 10 to 15K plus. But what are you telling them? So imagine an agent of yours is on this Zoom. What's the conversation that you're having with them that could help, any agent out there to ensure that they start this thing off right?
Yeah. So I think number one is mindset of just coming into it knowing that you want to keep a positive mindset no matter what's happening. I think also understanding that closing a client, getting a deal is not the only win in this industry at all. For me, like one of my favorite things about the industry is helping agents and seeing like that light bulb go off for them where like everything just clicks. And sometimes it takes people a little bit longer to get to that. But I think also being coachable and understanding that this is going to be a learning curve no matter what background or experience that you have. So I think having a positive mindset, seeing that there are more wins than just closing a deal, being coachable and being open to constructive criticism. Because in phone sales, you don't notice that you're saying 10,000 times throughout a call, or that you're saying certain word tracks that are not resonating with the client for them to trust you or to be in a space to move forward. Or so there's like a lot of psychology behind the sale when it comes to like tonality and, like I said, word tracks and really just repetition. Like I said, when I first started doing 8 to 10K a month, like I was in that for the first few months. Now I'm able to do that on a weekly basis, which is amazing, but it also takes time to get there. And you really have to put the effort into like sharpening your skill set and knowing like what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses and figuring out what you need to do to be able to sharpen those and just kind of get better. But yeah, I mean, I would say just being disciplined with your time, being intentional with your dial time. Like, don't let anything or anybody mess with that. If you're saying that you're going to be dialing from 8 to 11, then be intentional and dial from 8 to 11, because you can dial from 8 to 11 and be intentional about that and do your, 200 dials, 300 dials, whatever it is, or maybe only do 100 because you have a lot of people that answer. But then there's also dialing and like scrolling on your phone and, getting distracted with other things. And I think being a new agent, you really have to focus on staying structured to what is your goals for that dial session. Are you hitting those? Why are you not hitting them? How are you going to do differently on your next dial session to be able to hit those? So of course, it comes down to work ethic as well. And everyone's going to be a little bit different when it comes to that, but it's really not like rocket science. Like anybody can do this. It doesn't matter what background or previous training or experience that you have. It's really just having a good mindset, being coachable and following the blueprint that your mentors are giving you. And that's, exactly what I've done throughout my entire career of doing this. So
Right, right. That's brilliant advice for everybody listening. I think people can take heed to it and implement it as well. And I really want people to understand that in order to be successful, like that's the most important thing. Well, we can sit here and talk about what to say, how to say it, and those are very important things. Honestly, what leads to buy? I think
yeah,
we have a great system, great team, great CRM, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like you've made money, I've made a lot of money before all this marketing stuff happened, and we were just ripping leads. Like you
yeah,
said, you made $10,000 off of 9-month-old leads, right? You've made more money doing other things too. So it's like the one thing that doesn't change is that your mindset. If
yeah,
I give you a phone and this is the only number you got, like you're gonna make it work. Like just give you a bunch of Google Sheets. Yeah, does it help? Yes, but it's not needed. You can have all that stuff and work with us. And honestly, it's not guaranteed that you're gonna be successful unless you have the right mindset. So
totally.
no, I really appreciate you for hopping on and being able to provide clarity to people. I always, at the end, do you have anything else you want to share with them? If not, you're good. Just about recruiting, sales, working with us.
Honestly, I would just say, I mean, you and your team are amazing, and I value you guys and helping me scale my business. And I mean, I am never a gatekeeper. I'm always open to helping anybody and everybody answer questions. If you just want to pick my brain, I had one of your agents actually reach out to me the other day and was like, I see that you're killing it with Trey. Like, can I pick your brain and ask you some questions? I'm like, absolutely. I'm like, I don't even know who you are, but absolutely. So I helped him and gave him some insight on what I had been doing and how long I'd been working with you and just, how I do things. So you can always reach out to me, get my information from Trey. I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, G.
Of course. Thank you.